is Stephen Medhurst. Stephen is a husband and father of two from Mitchell, Ontario, and co-support leader in the Hamilton-Halton area group. A welder and tradesperson turned blogger, Stephen was diagnosed in April of 2020. Stephen?
You play it? Sorry, I'm just waiting for the video to play here. While we're waiting there, queuing up the video, I guess I could say is exactly a year ago to this date, I was granted the opportunity with the help of CNETs and one of our sponsors there to be part of an awareness video. And it was something I was very humbled to be a part about. And I thank Jackie to forward my name for that. And I was the very first North American, or at least Canadian, case that Ipsen Global did for a patient awareness. And not to brag, but we have the most amount of views on Ipsen's channel. So I'm Stephen Medhurst. I'm 48 years old. I live in Mitchell, Ontario. Got diagnosed year-over-year cancer. I guess to be about a year old now, they had found a mass in my abdomen. think I'd watch that and it wouldn't kind of bring lump to my throat every time I watch that. And I still have a hard time recognizing that person in the video. It's it's something I never thought would ever happen to me, and you hear the other stories people told too, and it's almost identical, being diagnosed, and it's unbelievable. And it's like I said, in the video it started about 12 years ago with a visit out to the hospital after 2 days of kidney pain, when a stubborn man like myself wouldn't go to the hospital, whatever. My wife dragged me to the hospital and said, you need to be looked at. There's something going on here. And the 2 days turned into a 3-day stay because they had found a mass in my small intestine area. And it was sitting on a blood supply. So they were unfortunately unable to biopsy it, just with the location of it. So I was discharged from the hospital, and I was followed for about a year and a half to 2 years after that initial hospitalization. And they did every scan, every scope, any kind of test you could imagine. As long as it goes. And I lived a normal life for about 8 years. And then 3 years ago, in the middle of 2019, I started suffering from severe stomach pain again. And I was severely bloated a lot, and I was starting to miss work here or there. And my family doctor and I were working together to see exactly what was going on. They thought maybe I had developed a food allergy or some, so we did a bit of give and take with stuff like that for a while, maybe IBS, like a lot of small bowel people are misdiagnosed with to start off with. Then one day I was so extended, I had to go to the hospital, and I was a tradesperson who never missed work, and I felt guilty about missing work. I went to the hospital, and I was fortunate to have a very attentive ER doctor that day who took my blood and did a urine sample and told me there was something little up with my markers, and he ordered a CT scan. I was brought in the CT scan almost immediately right away, and within an hour of sitting there waiting, he called me into his office and he said, look, we found this mass you had 10 years ago, and it's doubled in size now. So he thinks this is causing the pain that's pushing on your stomach wall and causing inflammation through the lymph nodes and causing all this pain for you. He said, not to get too worried, he did mention it could be cancerous, but he also used a long medical term. It also could be, I don't remember what it was. It was basically unusual growth, and I would be referred to a general surgeon. After the general surgeon, I went through the gambit of tests again, all the scans, the scopes, the octreotide scan at the time. I did all those. From there, they recommended surgery. They brought my case to the tumor board. I was recommended surgery, and on March of 2020, so March 4th, so basically one week before the COVID shutdown, I had bowel resection surgery. So I look back now and think, what would have happened if my surgery wasn't exactly on that date? I could still be sitting at home in pain, not knowing what's going on. So I consider myself fairly fortunate for that. My surgery went well, and I was recovering well at home, and I hadn't heard anything for a month or so and thought nothing of it. I thought, oh, my story's over, my journey was done, this is all looked after. When on April 19th, I was called by an oncologist from the Juravinski Center in Hamilton, who goes back and forth from the Brantford Hospital where I was living at the time. And he asked me if I was sitting down, and I asked him why, and he said, I have some news for you. And he said, your pathology report has come back and you've been tested positive for neuroendocrine cancer, and it's stage 4. And I didn't quite understand what he meant at the time. So he explained to me, he gave me Steve Jobs as a reference, which is probably not the best reference in the world you want to hear when you're being told you have neuroendocrine cancer. But when he told me how widespread my disease was, it became aware how severe it was. I didn't get clean margins on the small bowel. They still found some in the lining of my abdomen wall. I had metastases to my liver, in my mesentery, in the lymph nodes. There was some there. When they did my surgery, they also took out 3 feet of intestine in the resection, and of 44 of the lymph nodes, 22 tested positive for cancer. I had a small spot on my lung that they weren't quite sure was, but they had to suspect it could be a possible metastases as well. So with that being said, he asked me if I was okay, and I said, well, not really. My wife was at work, and both my boys were at work too. They both worked at essential jobs at the time. So I was sitting at home, and after what seemed an eternity, which was only about 2 minutes, I made my way down to the Brantford Hospital, which I was asked to do right away and go to the cancer clinic. And once again, due to COVID, the hospital was empty, so I was fairly fortunate there too. I was able to walk straight into the cancer clinic, which I didn't even know Brantford had a cancer clinic at all. And I was there. They had all the paperwork ready for me. They had all the treatment ready for me, and I was on my way to my cancer journey. I was started on 30 milligrams of octreotide to start off with, in which I was injected in within 2 days. Sorry. I walked home from the hospital that day. I hadn't even told my wife or kids what was going on. When I got home, I called Tracy, my wife there, who I give many thanks to. You may not recognize her from the video. She doesn't have blonde hair anymore. She is back to long brown hair. I had to phone her and told her what happened, and told her, please don't rush home. I was told this is a marathon, not a race, right from the get-go from my oncologist, and which he's right about. This is a marathon, not a race. My kids came home, and we told them right away what Dad was going to go through, and then we spent the rest of the day calling family and friends. And it was probably the most exhausting day of my life, to tell everybody that. And then we sat there in silence and didn't exactly know what to do. And then I saw on the pamphlet I came home with cnets.ca, and right away I went on the website, and I found the Facebook group, and I had people reach out to me right away. I believe Jackie reached out to me right away, along with a few other people, and they were just asking, is everything okay? And a very welcoming, very gracious community, one I'm very proud to be a part of. And they asked all the right questions. They wanted to make sure I was getting the right treatment, like people I hadn't even met before. And still, I just met most of them today, just because of the COVID and stuff like that happened. And for that, I'm eternally grateful. For the first year of my diagnosis, it was up and down. I suffered bouts of flushing. I had constant diarrhea, and I just had scans and the urine collect test, the 5-HIAA and the chromoglobin A test, all were doing this all over the place for me. And my doctor was not sure what was going on. My scans, I was scanned every 3 months to start off with. I was getting so many scans that my doctors had to tell me that we were getting too much radiation at this point. We need to kind of curtail those. And I was bumped up to 60 milligrams. And from them on, I've held a stable status. So now for 2 years, as the video says, I've held a stable status, and I'm able to live a generally, basically normal life. Now that I live a normal life, and I I've taken a leave from work, and I've tried to make my cancer journey a positive twist. Like I say, I write a blog. It's called Cancer Won't Run My Life. I run, I exercise every day. I make sure that I squeeze the most out of every day. I try to take nothing for granted. Every day is important. Being here, meeting new people is important. Being around my family is important. Telling my story, listening to other people's stories is very important. And listening to the doctors and cutting edges and everybody just being a part of this is an important part, and going forward would be an important part of my life. So in a very strange twist, cancer has made me a better human being. I no longer worry about the small things, and I take every day as it comes, looking for the positive out of every single day. And I'm very grateful to be standing here today with all of you. And I'm very grateful to have told my story, and I'm eternally grateful for my video and all those responsible for doing that. And that was 500 gigs of information that they got out of that, and they compressed it down to 3 minutes. So I don't know how they did that, but they did a fantastic job telling the story. And I'll leave it at that. And just I'm grateful to be here, and I'm grateful to be amongst all you great people. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Stephen. We greatly appreciate you sharing your story with us here today. And Stephen's video can also be found on our website at cnets.ca. Our next